You're listening to Miss Style, Strength, and Grace with Deidre Murphy. This is your one-stop shop for style, fashion, health, and fitness. Deidre's passion is to help empower women to reach their fullest potential, both inside and out. Deidre and her guests will be discussing how to develop your style, health, and lifestyle hacks to energize your day and inspire you to keep reaching higher levels of success. Deidre is a professional fashion stylist, health guru, and Mrs. Washington 2017. It's time to get open and honest with Deidre.
All right, well, hello and welcome everyone. This is Deidre Murphy, your host of Miss Style, Strength, and Grace. And I'm really excited because today we are having our very first interview with the one and only Steven Roddy. He is the founder of the Pageant Planet, and I'm lucky because I get to write for the Pageant Planet. I do a fashion article once a month, and I just do it for fun just because I love fashion and talking about how pageant women are taking current trends and transitioning them into pageant wear. So Steven Roddy, I'll do a little intro about him if you don't know much about him. He's a former model and television host. And at the age of 23, he was the youngest owner of a professional football team. I definitely want to hear more about that. And following the football team, he formed a consulting firm specializing in making brands famous. Steven has consulted for movies, magazines, designers, and actors from Canada to Hawaii. In connection with his consulting firm, Steven created pageantplanet.com, which coaches more than 300,000 women and girls daily how to successfully compete in pageantry. I myself am one of those women. He helped coach me with his website and all the other resources that Pageant Planet provides, and I ended up winning Mrs. Washington this last May. So I'm eternally grateful for the Pageant Planet and Steven Roddy himself. So Steven, hopefully you're excited to be on the call with me today and chatting about all things pageant and even business related. So in my little bio that I read about you, I want to hear more about this football team. I'm not really a football girl, but tell me about that.
Well, so it started when I was 12. And as a side note, yes, I am excited to be on the call. I appreciate you reaching out and just saying, hey, did you want to interview me? I'm very flattered. And you do an amazing job writing your articles. You clearly know what you're talking about. And I'm stoked to be on. So my parents asked me when I was 12, we were just sitting around the dining room table, and they asked me what I wanted to do when I grew up. And I said I wanted to own the Chicago Bears. And they're like, you mean play for them? I'm like, no, I want to own them. And so they just said, okay. And fast forward to when I was 23, my friend, a few of my close buddies, they knew this dream of mine was to own a football team. And one of my friends was going through an airport, and he saw a magazine that said how you can own your own football team. It was a Forbes magazine. So he bought it for me and he gave it to me. And at the time I was waiting tables at the Cheesecake Factory, still to this day, my favorite restaurant.
I was there Saturday night.
Not really in a position to buy a football team. Oh, you are? Nice. So not really in the position to buy a football team. But I read that article and I was very inspired. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to buy a football team. And it said you need to have $5 million in assets. And it talked about how you could buy an arena football team, and which was basically the minor league to the NFL. So, 4 months later, I stumbled upon a team that was for sale 2 hours away from where I was living in Georgia, and raised $1 million. And at that time, I was the youngest person to own a football team. So I bought it at 23 and had my first press conference on my 24th birthday. And I was in business. And I went down and sold advertising, paid off my debts, and yeah, I was in business.
That's amazing. Just dust a little dirt off your shoulder there. I owned a football team, no big deal. But I think that truly led to your entrepreneurial spirit. Am I right?
Yeah, well, my dad is very entrepreneurial. He owned a hardware store, a restaurant, a construction company, and then he went into real estate. So I saw my parents go out and, in essence, create a lifestyle for themselves. They weren't rich by any imagination. They were basically middle class and sometimes lower than middle class. But they kept trying and they kept putting themselves out there. So it gave me the confidence to know that I could try it too. And if I went out there and I failed, then okay, whatever. I can start over again and I can try again, because that was the legacy that they left for me. And that's been my journey in life, is to try something, fail, try again, fail. And where it seemed like a lot of my other friends and people in my life, they would try something and experience success early, that's not necessarily been my journey, even though you'd say, yeah, whatever, you bought a football team at 23. But on the flip side of that, because I was still learning to be a good business person, I lost a football team and I lost everything. And then after that, I started another business. I lost everything again, and I went back to sleeping on the floor again. And then I started to learn the principles, because this whole time I was reading books. I was surrounding myself with successful people, and I was learning from them. I was learning how to be a better human being, be a better business person, be a better leader. And the thing is, like, no one can beat you if you never stop. So I just kept trying, and then I launched Pageant Planet when I was 27. And yeah. It's grown to be this massive resource that, as you said, helps a bunch of girls, yourself included. So really proud about that, and glad, just thankful for what my parents instilled in me.
That's amazing. And I'm so glad you brought up Pageant Planet in particular, because that feeds into my next question. I kind of know the story, but a lot of our listeners might not know. I want to know how you created Pageant Planet, and specifically something to do with a computer and a coffee shop. So I'll let you kind of tell your story of how Pageant Planet was born.
Yeah, so pageantry is this weird little cult that you don't even know it exists until you get inside of it, and then you see it everywhere. And that was very much my thing. When I had the football team, I thought, who's the prettiest girl I can get to do the coin toss? And so I thought the team was in Georgia. So I thought, maybe I could hire Miss Georgia to do the coin toss. And so I hired her, and then basically she and I started dating, and I realized how much money she was spending in entry fees and registration and gowns, etc. Well, after the football team failed and I lost everything and I was looking for my next venture, I'll skip past the second one, but basically I thought I want to do something that I could do it from home, because I didn't like going into the office every day. I didn't like having to leave my family, my vacation spot, or wherever I was going to go to a particular office. I wanted to just work wherever I was. And even before I started the Pageant Planet, I actually said, what do I want in my dream job? So I asked myself 4 questions. I said, what did I want to wear to work, like clothing wise? Did I want to dress up, dress down, wear pajama pants? The second question was, what location? Like, where did I want to work location wise? Like, did I want to work from the beach, coffee shop, home, an office? The third was, how many hours a week did I want to work? And the fourth was, how much money did I want to make? And based on that, I wrote out everything I've ever wanted to do, and motivational speaking. And so I was like, so even if I wanted to be a trash man for one day, I was like, I wrote it down. And based on there was 50 different things that I said I wanted to do with my life. So I crossed those off based on my answers to those 4 particular questions. And I landed on motivational speaking was the one thing I really wanted to pursue. Well, so I did it. I found mentors. They helped me get started. But then 2 of them, within a week apart, both told me I should not do motivational speaking. I should open a marketing company. So I did. I followed their tutelage, and I opened a marketing company. And then that's when I started marketing for the movies and for the actors, etc. And then out of that, I realized I didn't want clients. So then I created an online brand, which was Pageant Planet. Well, during that time when I was, because I launched Pageant Planet and the marketing company simultaneously, but directly before then, my other business venture failed, and so I lost everything again. And so, in order to pay the rent, I went back to waiting tables at the Cheesecake Factory, and I couldn't even afford Wi-Fi. I mean, just the basic necessities, and what I did is I didn't have a laptop either, but I had a desktop, and it was an Apple computer. And so I took my whole desktop into a Starbucks, and I had a duffel bag, and I packed it all up, and I just, boom, put it on the table, ordered a tall cup of coffee, and I spent all day there just milking out their Wi-Fi. And I wrote, oh my gosh, in one setting, I would write sometimes 30, 40 articles. and then I would schedule them out for the week, and then that would be the content for the website. I had no really financial plan, no like marketing plan, because no one's ever done what I was doing in this industry and made a living. So there was no game plan. But I just knew that there was something to this and I needed to pursue it. And I just kept doing it until I found the online coaching and then the resources and basically what it's grown into today. So yeah, they got to know me pretty well because I was the guy with a desktop.
They're like, sir, your coffee is worth way more than the $2.50 that you've been paying.
You would think. I was in there for like 10 hours a day, before I go in there.
I specifically wanted to hear that story again because A, I think it's very inspirational, but B, I thought it was fitting because just the other night, my husband was complaining about our desktop and how we're trying to do all these technical things, and it's an older operating system. It's not even a Mac. What is it called? When it's non-Mac.
PC.
Thank you.
PC?
It's a PC, and everything we've kind of gone to is Mac. And I was like, why don't you just get a Mac, either book or a desktop or something? And then I told him about your story, taking your whole desktop into Starbucks, working there just to get Wi-Fi. And he was like, dang it, if that Steven guy can take a whole desktop into Starbucks, I don't need to get a new computer. I can make what we have work for now. You inspired my husband to wait on a new computer.
Well, that's genuinely why I tell my story. It's because like from a genuine place, no one ever just wakes up the next day and they're a success. There's one of my favorite quotes is, it takes 7 years to become an overnight success. And it's because all that foundational work, the grind, the embarrassment. I had one of my friends saw me at the coffee shop and she was like, and she was a cute girl too, which caused the pain, but even more, but she was like, you look ridiculous. And I had to agree, right? But what are my other options? Wait tables for the rest of my life?
Yeah.
So I don't mind looking ridiculous temporarily in order to try something that might actually work. And being an entrepreneur in the beginning, you always look crazy. You always look ridiculous because no one else sees your vision like you do. You see your vision and you believe in it and you step out on faith, and the details, they work themselves out. If you've had more experience in business, you can create more of a definitive plan in the beginning, which will allow you to experience success faster. But as long as you're committed to the ultimate goal of making something work, you're going to figure it out along the way. And that's what I did.
I love it. This is a different direction than the next question I was going to ask. But speaking of, trying and failing and trying to figure it out, if somebody was interested in starting their own business, what is the number one piece of advice that you would give to that person?
Create a structure that will force a habit. So nothing is going to change in your life without something changing in your daily habits. For example, it's like I wanted to create a brand. Well, in order to create a brand online, you have to generate content. And in order to generate content, somebody's got to type. Well, clearly, as stated, I didn't have any money to pay anyone. So that person was me. And I had to create a structure of when I was going to type. And I mean, Deidre, I can remember I would, at this time, when I was losing everything for the second time, I lost my house. And the only thing I took was my my desktop. And I took it to a friend's house who didn't live in the nicest part of town. And I slept on his floor for a few weeks. And I was so frustrated. But I can remember waking up in the middle of the night and ants were all over my legs, like biting me. Because, yeah. But the next morning was my day that I had to wake up and do, because my commitment to myself, 3 articles a day, every day. And the next morning I had to wake up and do my articles. So I did them, and it wasn't comfortable. And I was making after a year in doing it, I was making 17 cents a day working a full-time job online. Mm-hmm. So, you've got to make a commitment to yourself. And just like you would never let your boss down or your manager, don't let yourself down. And a lot of times in life, people make it so easy to let themselves down, but not someone else. So I just forced it to be be a habit for me that I was going to do 3 articles a day. So create a system that will force a habit. And as the old saying goes, first man makes the habit, and then the habit makes the man.
That's a really good quote. I've never heard that before. I like that. So kind of putting in those big structures and rocks and being accountable to yourself as your own CEO and boss.
Yeah, completely. Yeah. And that's why, like with Pageant Planet, everybody has a structure. Everybody, there's a reporting system. And that structure is what made Steven successful. And so I put the structure in place for all of my staff, writers, etc., so we all can live a structured life within the organization, because we're all over the world and we have no centralized office. I don't want a centralized office. Because if I have an office, I have to go into it. And then that does not make alignment with what my ultimate goals are. So, create a structure. Structure forces the habit. Habits, first man makes the habits, and then habits make the man.
I love it. So actually, I was going to ask this question towards the end, but you kind of started to bring it up, and you started talking about, you don't want an office because it doesn't align with your goals. So it kind of leads me into the question of, well, what are your values? Like, what are your top 3 values that you make sure everything you do aligns with in your life?
I was doing some thinking about this particular question, and the challenge is, like, what I want my values to be, like what I feel like would make me look good, versus what my values actually are. Let's be
open and honest. That's my motto when it comes to interview.
Well, yeah. And so it takes some time to decipher through, and where your values are based on where you spend your time. And so my number one value is my wife, because if it's between my wife or even God or my business, I always choose my wife, and even to like the detriment of the other 2. And so my values, if I was to list them in order, would be my wife, my business, and then my personal relationship with Christ. So I feel like, and I've justified it in a way that originally it was my business, then God, and then all my other relationships. But when my wife came in to the picture, I deliberately chose her first. And so with that, I feel like nothing else in this life really makes sense if you're home. You're married. Like if your home life is a hot mess, it doesn't matter how successful your business is or how spiritual you think you are. You're not a success in my eyes, and nor are you spiritual, because the person, nothing would challenge you more spiritually than living with another person in close proximity every day of your life and working through all the different personalities and backgrounds and hangups that we all have. So those are my values. And when I structure my day and when I structure my week, it's around, like, what does my wife need? What does my company need? And then what do I need spiritually? Ideally, like the part that I wanted to make it look really good was like, okay, God is first in my life, then business is last. But when I looked at the stats, it's not true. It doesn't line up. No, it's not true.
But I don't think that's necessarily bad. I think that if you are serving your wife and, loving her first, that's a way of, serving the Lord, and then everything else kind of comes underneath that. And if you make sure that her needs are taken care of, then that means that you're making sure your business is growing, that your love for God is, shown through your love for her. So I don't think that it necessarily means that one is above the other. At least that's the way I interpret what you just said.
Yeah, and that's 100% it. When I was really looking at it, I feel like if God is first, but my relationship with my wife is a hot mess, I'm not really in alignment, because how can I love a God that I've never seen if I can't love and really just cherish my wife who's in front of my eyes and every day? And if my business isn't intact, but I'm spiritual, I pray a lot, I'm not taking care of my household. So then I'm not being a good leader to my family. So so I've justified it, and you're right, there's totally no wrong in it. And just like if somebody else has different values and different beliefs and different explanations as to why, there's no wrong in that either. We're all made unique, and we're all on our own specific journey.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to answer that question. And I think too, it shows your stewardship as well. If you can serve her, then you can serve your business, and you can also serve humanity. And that's showing, Christ's love through your actions.
Yeah, I agree.
That's awesome. So I want to kind of switch gears, and I want to go more in talking about pageantry. Before we do that, I need to plug in my computer, so I might take a little second here. Okay. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
It came unplugged. You know how it's like the magnetic? Mm-hmm. Okay, now we're good. Let me make a note of that time. So that was 20 minutes in. Okay, so switching gears a little bit, I want to talk a little bit more about pageantry. With you being the founder and CEO of Pageant Planet, your mission statement is to help women succeed in pageantry. So what does that mean to you? What does it mean to succeed in pageantry, number one?
Success in pageantry isn't ultimately winning the crown. It's growing as a human being. And I've seen and experienced a lot of girls who never won a major crown like that they sought, but pageantry opened up massive doors of opportunity for them in their career, their occupations, finding a spouse, finding a mate, and even just growing in that confidence. Sounds so cliche of like just growing as an individual. But if you don't grow as an individual, you're not going. Yeah, and world peace. But if you don't grow as an individual, you're never going to accomplish anything significant in life. So for me, my first priority ultimately is, to try to help the girl win the crown, because that's why she's competing. She's not competing just so she can grow as a person. That's a byproduct. But in the journey of helping them win the crown, I want that woman or that man on the other end of my emails, on the other end of who's listening to this audio, to really look at themselves and say, I have value because I'm a human being, and I have unique, special qualities about myself just because I'm exist and I'm warm and breathing. And I feel like if individuals discover that throughout their journey in pageantry, that they are going to be exponentially more successful, happier in life than if they don't. So I highly encourage girls and guys to compete in pageantry or some sort of competition like pageantry, because pageantry, I mean, the girl that I dated, I really saw her evolve as a human being because of the support group and the way that she put herself out there, the way that she was surrounded by makeup artists and people that said, hey, you should do this different with your hair, do this different with your makeup. And it's like her look, her confidence, and her network really expanded because there are a lot of influential people in pageantry. Mm-hmm. So, success to me is really just like, I think it's Socrates who said, like, know thyself. It's like pageantry helps you to really discover more about yourself. And again, you can't accomplish anything significant in life without first knowing who you are as a person.
I love that. And I think it's totally true that the more you lose, the more you win and gain, especially in pageantry. Not just like monetarily wise with scholarships and other benefits, but you just grow as a person, like you said, and you become true to yourself.
Well, if you look at any really successful person, and you'll find just without fail that equal to their success, they've experienced that much in rejection or failure. And it's a law. It works very much like if you take a bouncy ball, and the harder you slam it to the ground, the higher it bounces in the air. And that's very much what I've seen in all these business people whom I've spoken to, whom I've interviewed, etc. You'll see that they've all went through massive setbacks in their life, but those setbacks have become a launching pad for their success.
So speaking of, success and helping women succeed in pageantry, what are some of the specific ways that the Pageant Planet helps women? I mean, what are some of the different avenues that women can, and tools and resources that women can find via Pageant Planet?
So anything that you need to succeed in a pageant, you can discover on Pageant Planet. From actually, there's no place else online where you can do this, but you can sort through our image galleries by color, by silhouette, by fabric, by designer to find your dream dress. And then you click on that dress and you can find what store near you can buy the dress. You can also find local pageant coaches, personal trainers, hair makeup stylists, photographers, designers. You can find nonprofit organizations to help connect with. We give free pageant questions. We have a free 1-year training course to help you succeed in pageantry. So if your pageant is 12 months away, you can sign up for our free course, and we'll send you minimum 1 email a month that tells you what you should be working on that month in order to help you succeed for your pageant. We have one-on-one coaching. We have mock interviews. We have like You can get unlimited coaching from us there's different tiered options, but $119 a month is the most that you pay. $19 a month is the least that you pay. You can buy shoes, pageant earrings, butt glue, swimsuits, whatever.
Butt glue is a real thing. It really does help.
Butt glue is a real thing. Gosh, and we deliver daily questions of the day that are related to current events and just like your paperwork, etc. And there's just a bunch of other things, from submitting your paperwork to if you don't know what headshots to submit, to if you don't know if your wardrobe looks good on you. All that's part of our membership coaching. We help girls find pageants in their area, even if you're in some place like Nicaragua or India or Egypt. And we have all those girls on a daily basis or a weekly basis submitting help me find a pageant, and it's all there under one roof. So that's how we help.
I love it. And I think that it's so great that it's not only the pageant country, it's the pageant planet. You can get from all aspects of the world. You can connect with pageants, whether it's trying to find a local to promoting your platform wherever you're at. I think that's wonderful. And it's helping women grow, globally, obviously, Pageant Planet. And I'm excited about the Pageant Planet subscription box. So if you haven't heard about that, listeners, it's kind of like Birchbox, but for pageant lovers, or like Ipsy, any one of those subscription boxes. So I'm really excited to see more about that. And speaking of that, are there any other exciting upcoming events or news that the Pageant Planet has in the works that you are willing to share with our listeners?
Yeah, well, so we're launching a new website. Tech team said it'll be ready by the end of November, so I'm going to say probably more by the end of December. And the new site is just, our old site is going to look like a cardboard box next to a Cadillac. Because it'll do so much as far as integration. You can look on a certain title holder, her profile, and you can see what pageants she competed in, how she placed in those pageants, and then what her headshot looked like when she competed in that pageant, what her swimsuit body, if applicable, looked like, and then what coaches she worked with to train for that pageant, what retailers she bought her dress from, all that. So it's a bit of a time capsule of that girl in every pageant that she's ever competed in. In addition, you'll be able to see if you click on that particular pageant, you'll be able to see all the different girls she competed with in that pageant, and then you can click on any one of those profiles to see. So in creating this, we'll have the largest database on the planet of girls who competed. So we'll be in essence like a Wikipedia or an IMDb for just pageant girls. Wow. So all the functionalities that IMDb has, we will have, but in the pageant community for coaches, MCs, directors, and you can even vote people's choice. So a lot of pageant directors do $1 a vote. You can go in there and you can vote for who you want your people's choice to be, and you can buy local. So let's say Idaho pageant has a magazine, and you want to buy an ad inside their magazine, you can do that through our website. So if you're a local pageant coach in Idaho and you want to buy a program ad in Miss Idaho USA, well, you can do that through our portal. So lots of fun things, and there's a lot of other really cool functionality like that that's going to be coming in a month.
That's so exciting. Now, is there going to be an app with that too? Because that would be really cool.
Yeah, so we looked at apps, and we used to have an app, but the challenge is, iPhone, every time they make an update, you got to update the app. And then every time Android makes it, you got to update that. So I just haven't done it yet, but the whole site is mobile friendly, from creating a profile to all the different functionality. That was high priority. So we'll see where the app is going to come. We'll probably do the app more for our predictions game and stuff, because our prediction game is really fun. If the girls don't know about it, basically for Miss Universe is coming up right now. So you can go on the site win Miss Universe, who's going to get winner, first runner up, second runner up, and then we have a leaderboard based on how good you are at predicting, which I think I'm like fourth now. I'm like,
dang.
Yeah, I know. You would think I would be better, but
I'm pretty impressed with fourth. I'm like, wow, Steven's a force to be reckoned with when it comes to pageant predictions.
No, Samantha, who's our queen of directory, she's in first.
Oh, wow.
So I'm like, I think that's home cooking right there personally, but whatever. I'm no judgment.
No, I love it. I kind of asked this question earlier when it comes to, why getting involved in a pageant, but I'll go ahead and ask it. What's one specific piece of advice you would give to anyone looking to get involved in a pageant?
Do your research before, because pageants are like franchises for restaurants. So if you're like, I want to go out to eat, basically the follow-up question is, great, there's a million restaurants. Like, what franchise do you want to go? Do you want to go to McDonald's, Applebee's, whatever? So pageantry is very much that way. So you can try to compete in one pageant and have a horrible experience because you just didn't like that franchise. You didn't like that restaurant. So do your research as far as just go on the pageant planet, look under directory. You'll see, I don't know how many, I think we're like 1,000 pageants or whatever, and just type in 1,000 different systems. So basically you type in your age division, what you're looking for in a pageant. Like, do you want a swimsuit competition or not? There's something for everybody. So check off those boxes, hit search, and then read the reviews on them and read what the director says about their pageant, and then pick up the phone and talk to the director, interview a few of them, and make your connection with theirs. So it's really just finding a pageant that you feel like, A, that you can succeed in, that plays to your strength, and B, that you just are enjoying the people who have actually organized it.
That's awesome. That's a great piece of advice. That's totally different than where I thought you were going to go with that. I was going to be like, make sure you know who you are. Or, I don't know, something more.
Something more abstract.
Yeah. But I really like that answer. That's a great way of looking at it, especially with different age systems and things like that. You need to know that you align well with the system that you're looking into and make sure that it, not only fits with your personality, but your values too. I mean, maybe you have something against wearing a swimsuit on stage, then you probably shouldn't go for Miss USA.
Yeah.
So know
that's a bad choice.
Yeah,
right.
Not the best choice for you, but maybe you could look into the international system because they do more of the sport wear or whatever it is. So, and the Pageant Planet is a great resource to find the answers to those questions. And kind of shifting gears a little bit more, but to more, I guess, generic questions. Do you have a current favorite resource for life, whether it's, a podcast that you listen to every day or a book you've been inspired by? Is there something that you've been using?
Yeah, I listened to a book called Outwitting the Devil, and it's by Napoleon Hill. And Napoleon Hill wrote the book Think and Grow Rich. And in the book, he talks about his interview with the devil and the devil's role in society, like how he keeps people from his purpose. And what is, for me, instead of going for quantity, because I used to read as many books as possible, different personal development, but then I started to scale it back and say, what books have made the most impact in my life? And that one has been just tremendous. And I highly suggest the one on audiobook, because the guy's voice who plays the devil sounds what you would think that the devil would sound like, this deep, sophisticated voice. And there's just a lot of wisdom in the book about how to accomplish success in life, whatever success looks like to you. So I really found that valuable, and it talks about everything from marriage to health to wealth creation to just enjoying life, the life around you. So highly recommend it. And I don't know how many times I've listened to it, but I just play it when I'm working out and listen to the wisdom, and a lot of chapters I memorize or mouth the words because I've listened to it so many times.
Oh, that's fantastic. I learned this trick from my husband, that you can speed up an audiobook so you can get through it faster, and you can have them speak at 1.5 times their normal rate, or 1.25. And it just kind of helps work through some of those audiobooks a little bit faster so you can absorb more information. My next question, I think you kind of gave one. I don't know if this is the positive quote or affirmation that you want to give, but what is a positive quote or affirmation that you would love to share with listeners today?
For me, faith without works is dead. And whether you're Christian or not, it is a Bible verse. But anything significant I've ever accomplished in my life, I didn't just say, I want to accomplish this. Going back to what I said earlier, you've got to create a structure that'll force a habit. But I always walk towards something. I mean, on the surface, it sounds stupid that a server would ever be able to buy a football team when the magazine said you needed $5 million in assets. But that was a goal of mine, and I just kept taking steps toward it. And when I did, I would see the next step that I needed to take. And if I ever experienced a roadblock or kind of a hurdle or a hiccup, I would just stop and it's just like, do I still want this? And if I did, then I continue to walk toward it. So for you, like you, Deidre, you listening, maybe you want to get into investing in real estate or becoming a fashion designer, something like that. Well, what's the first step that you can take? If it's you want to invest in real estate, awesome. Go look at real estate. It doesn't cost you anything. If you want to be a fashion designer, great. Like start doing online research of every fashion designer and see how they got their start. Maybe you'll get something like an idea of how you can start. Like your steps don't have to cost you anything. It costs you like putting yourself out there a little bit, but outside of that, there's no hard cost. So faith without works is dead, because if you're not walking toward it, you can speak it all day long, but if you're not willing to get up and take an action, it's not going to manifest for you.
I love that. So you can kind of start diving in and at least taking the action steps first.
Yeah, just like you are on your show. Mm-hmm. You want to transition your company online? So great. So you start a podcast and you're creating an online presence and building up your viewership online. It's just very smart, and you're taking action toward that. Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of actually when I wanted to first become a stylist and I was still working my day job, and I finally just had to make that decision to start diving in and going for it. And, you know, I was going to figure out the details later, but I knew that I wanted to start styling women. So, I mean, there's obviously more to that, but I wanted to ask my next question. I've got basically 2 more questions left, so I'm almost done with you. I wanted to ask, who has been your greatest mentor or influencer? And it could be somebody that you've known personally or just somebody that you follow and listen to their content. So who would that be for you and why?
Well, so right now, I would say that it's a guy by the name of Charlie Patterson, and he's mentored me on and off for probably about the last 6 years. And one of the things I can remember that he said is, I was at his house, and he said, you know, you really need to watch your language. Your language sucks. And I wasn't like I was cussing or anything, but I would always say words like, I can't, or I'll try. I didn't use definitive words. Mm-hmm. Like, I'll do that, or no, I won't do that. And so he not made me, but he just offered the suggestion, something that he had to go through. Every time I said the word, can't, I had to give him $10. Every time I said the word try, I had to give him $5. And so what it caused me to do is, in my everyday conversations, be a lot more deliberate about what it was that I was saying. And after I gave him like $300, I thought, okay, I need to really figure out how to control what it is that I'm saying, because words determine actions, actions determine destiny. So there was a lot of things like that he taught me. And again, he put some sort of structure, accountability in place. So that was really good. Before him, there was this guy by the name of Jeff Campbell, and he owned a lot of real estate, and we would just have lunch like one week. He was an older gentleman. He's probably like 75. And he said something to me, and he was like, I was going through a really challenging time with a marketing client at the time. And he just said, Steve, never let the bastards see you sweat. And it was something that just stuck. And he gave me a lot of other things that I'd grown from. But it was something that it just stuck with me, that regardless of what's happening in my life, don't let people see you sweat, because they're going through their own thing. And honestly, they're not going to be able to help you anyways. So you'll figure it out. So just ask intelligent questions, but don't be in a panic. There's nothing good comes out of a panic type situation. And my dad, I talked about him earlier, but he has a lot of just good old boy sayings, just those country sayings. And he talks like a good old boy. And he said, son, the only thing difference between $100 and $1 million is just a few zeros. And that's always stuck with me because I thought, you know what? You're right. That's the only difference, just a few zeros. And you can make $100 just as easy as you can make $1 million. You just got to be more of a service to society if you want to make more money.
I love that. And especially go back to your first person that you mentioned about, your thoughts and putting that positive vibe into the universe. It kind of reminds me of Tony Robbins and how he talks about like where thoughts go, like energy flows. So if you're putting that negative vibe into the universe, it's going to come back at you. But if you're putting that positive spin into the world, it's still going to bring positive back into your life. Kind of like vibrational, positive and negative energy. That's what it reminds me of.
It's exactly that.
Yeah,
it's exactly that.
So okay, my last question is going to be a question that I'm going to ask all of my interviewees and my guests on the show. What does it mean to do things with style and grace to you?
You do it based on your own personality. For me, I'm pretty laid back and I take time for people. My wife is an absolute turbo, and to have like small casual conversation with her in a workplace, it doesn't happen. She's just done. She's to a point. She's a nurse practitioner. She opens a med, does Botox, and because she and I, we opened that, it's called Roddy Med Spa. But we opened that together, and that's the thing. She's sweet, but she's to the point. Me, it's always just conversational based. Like, how's the weather? How you doing? Lots of conversation, and then you go into it. Now, all the other successful people in my life has been very much like my wife's personality. So for me to blaze my own trail and just to be comfortable being more laid back, being more of that small town guy that I am, but still like keeping my big dreams and pushing on towards my goal, it took some faith. So owning to the fact of like who you are as an individual, owning who you are as a person, how you think, how you act, none of that's wrong. You'll see successful people with every personality type from all different walks and all different backgrounds, but you just gotta find your thing that you want to do in life. I heard it said that the difference. Have you heard it said like if your only tool is a hammer, then every problem looks like a nail? So I heard it said another way that I really connected with, that successful business people, they realize that they only have a hammer. But they also realize that not every problem is a nail. They just look for the problems that are nails that they can solve. And so that's what's doing it with your own personality and your own flair, is knowing what tools that you have, finding a problem that you can solve for society, and then trying to solve that problem for as many people as humanly possible.
I love it. So it's kind of being your own authentic self, no matter what you're doing.
Yeah, completely.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for being on the interview today, as well as this, webcast that we're doing. And for my listeners, I just want to encourage you, if you haven't yet checked out pageantplanet.com to see more about the resources, even the free downloadable resources that you can find with the Pageant Planet to help you successfully compete in pageants. And then as always, for more information about Steve and Roddy, how to get connected with Pageant Planet and your own coaching, you can go to our show notes where we will have all the links available for you. So I want to say thank you again. A huge thank you to Steven for being my very first guest on Miss Style, Strength, and Grace.
Hey ladies, thanks for listening, and we hope you enjoyed today's episode. To help empower more women, please be a doll and rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast. For show notes and other free resources we mentioned today, go to stylebydeidre.com.